Bobby.
Oh.
Miss Bombardment. I have a meme for you.
Okay.
So I just want you to read what the words say on the meme and what it looks like.
All right. Okay, so there's two people. Looks like they're kind of in a hallway leading to maybe a kitchen. And I think that's supposed to be a guy. I can't tell. There's like a flash in front of his face. Looks like maybe a camera going off. And at the top it says, I said, ... Lego my ego. And the lady's got kind of a look on her face. I'm not sure if she looks angry or what, but I don't know. It's kind of an odd picture.
Yeah, and we're gonna actually talk about the expression on her face.
Okay.
Because it looks almost kind of stoic, yeah. In my opinion. But that look on her face, her expression, is kind of an important thing that we're going to point out.
Okay.
So there is a lot to unpack here.
Mm-hmm.
And this story ends up being so much more complicated in certain ways and much sadder than it first appears to be.
Okay.
But to start, referring to the image, I was going to ask you to tell me what you thought of the expression on her face, but you already did.
I mean, she looks like annoyed, maybe. I said angry, but I don't know.
Like she doesn't look happy.
No,
but
definitely not happy.
She also looks somewhat disinterested, in my opinion. Like just by the expression on her face. Like if I were to just see this photo out of context, I would think she was not really interested in what's going on and was almost annoyed that it was happening and kind of just wanted out of the situation. Now, this, in my opinion, is extremely important for people to understand.
Okay.
Not just because of her expression, but because of what we're about to learn about the situation. We have a caption about egos. Mm-hmm. And for all you 11s out there, I might get to that in a bit. But...
What do you mean by 11? What is it? What do you mean?
Oh, so have you ever watched Stranger Things?
Oh, that 11.
So
yes,
11 loves her egos.
Sure. I'm right there with her. I love a good Eggo waffle. Absolutely. I have some in my freezer right now.
Maybe that joke was too vague.
I just didn't know what you meant by 11.
And that's the only joke I wrote into the script, because as I learned more, this story got extremely, extremely dark.
Okay.
I want to give a warning to anybody who is listening to this podcast. This will be an extremely disturbing story. This will go over some very dark and very upsetting details. And I cannot stress enough that if you are sensitive to any sort of disturbing thing, you may want to stop listening now, because this will get about as disturbing as a story can possibly get.
Wow. Am I old enough to listen to this?
I don't think anybody's old enough. But the thing is, the truth matters.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Even if it is extremely upsetting. Mm-hmm. And again, warning, this will be an extremely upsetting story. I don't want to have anybody find me on social media and be upset about this story, about this script, because I'm warning you right now, you will probably be upset by the end of it. Also, I want to make sure that I express this to everybody. If anybody is having thoughts of suicide or having a crisis of any kind, you can dial or text or chat with 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. That's 988. You can call or text, and they are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So please, if you are having any thoughts of suicide, because this podcast will discuss suicide, if you're having any thoughts of that, please dial 988. You can call or text, and you stay 100% anonymous. And if you have any friends or family members who are having thoughts of suicide, you can also still contact 988, and they will talk to you.
You know, it's got to take a special type of person to handle that kind of job. You know, to be the one who answers that phone call.
Absolutely.
My God, can you imagine the stress you would feel at the end of your shift?
It's got to be a tough job, but I mean,
thought my job sucked.
But these are people. These are people who care. You know,
yeah.
Like, and I am extremely thankful that they exist, because Like the fact, the help that they give people, and they expressly say they can prevent suicide.
Well, sometimes all you need is somebody to listen to you.
Absolutely. Yeah,
no, that's
absolutely.
great. I'm so thankful that something like that is out there.
If I'm ever in a dark place, I will contact them.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
I've read nothing but great things about what they do. And it's just 988, just the 3 numbers you can call or text. So, getting back to the script, I just wanted to make sure I got that in there before we get too far into this, because we are going to go to some very dark places. But it is extremely important to understand the context of this situation when judging the look on this woman's face. 68 years ago, on August 10th, a man named Jeffrey Scott West was born. And many, many years later, he met a woman named Melanie Spitze. All sounds like a tale as old as time, except Melanie has a son. Before we learn about Melanie's son, let's watch the video from which this meme was made.
Okay.
And yes, there's a video, unfortunately. And this video was recorded by Melanie's son. So the entire recording is from his perspective.
So is that what the light is in this picture? It's him recording?
We'll see.
Okay.
You'll see what happens.
Okay.
I'm getting ready to blow his goddamn brains out right fucking now.
Stop it!
Blow my brains out. You want me to?
No! Stop it! Stop it!
Shoot me, I guarantee you'll go to jail for life.
Okay.
His brains out and yours. Tired of shit. You gonna blow my mom? You gonna blow my mom's brains out? Point that gun at me again.
You just fucking hit him? Did he hit you?
Looks like it.
Oh my god! You're going to jail.
Wow.
So,
Seems like an interesting family.
that flash was not a camera.
No, that was a gun. Okay.
That was a gunshot.
Wow.
Now, the reason why I mentioned to explain the expression of the woman in the meme was to make the point that the image doesn't give you an in-depth understanding of what happened. She looked almost complacent, disinterested, maybe a little annoyed at what was happening. But watching the video, it's very clear that she is angry and terrified by what's happening.
Yeah.
I think it's important to consider context like this before making judgments about people based on photographs alone.
Oh, yeah.
So, clearly, Jeffrey Scott West, the man in the video with the gun, attempted to shoot Melanie's son. But it wasn't just an attempt. He hit him.
Oh, yeah, there was blood.
Yeah, there was blood. Now, if you read into this situation, you might run into some misinformation. One headline on Facebook reads that West, quote, shot his son. And in another article, it reads West, quote, shot his partner's son in the head. Neither of these claims are completely accurate. The person West shot was not his son. And I'm about to get into something I discovered about how he felt about this quote unquote son. And he didn't shoot the person in the head, although he was very likely aiming for the head.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this comment that read that the guy said something about shooting him, quote, again, which indicates that West had done this before in the past, but that's not actually true. The guy said, aim that at me again.
Oh, yeah.
And he was likely referring to earlier in the video.
Right.
This guy is 24-year-old Kyle Spitze. Now, it's quite clear that West is not a fan of Kyle, especially considering that it appears he attempted to murder Kyle.
Yeah.
And came pretty damn close to it. In fact, the bullet grazed Kyle's ear. So, why all the anger? Reading through hundreds of comments on different platforms, there are a lot of claims of Kyle being a freeloader or even a pedophile, and that supposedly was what set West off, which we will certainly get into that. But I discovered something that all the news articles and all the comment sections missed completely.
He ate the last Eggo waffle.
No. But
That was the final straw. Dude couldn't take it anymore. Shot him. I have a roommate. I understand.
I mean, Eggo's pretty good.
Right? Oh, I'd be pissed if somebody ate my last Eggo.
Mm.
I might shoot him.
Told you to let go.
It looked like a kind of a small gun. Odds are good he's going to survive that.
I mean, to the head, though, there's,
He got him in the ear. Maybe that was intentional. He could be like a star
shooter.
marksman.
Like,
Yeah, marksman. That's the word.
He's like an Olympian marksman.
Yeah, I mean, he knew exactly what he was aiming at.
But I'm going to get into something that, like I said, all the news articles and all the comment sections completely missed. I didn't see a single person who figured out this connection.
Okay.
And anyone personally connected with this case, if they happen to listen to this podcast, they will be surprised by how much I know. But let's go over some interesting details.
Okay.
West had gone through some stressful situations.
Mm-hmm.
The event in this meme took place in a town called Friendsville, Tennessee. Friendsville.
Sure. They
Which-
seem friendly.
It was hard for comment sections to not make jokes about that.
Yeah,
So, but for a while, West lived in Pennsylvania. In fact, he was in custody in Pennsylvania. He spent a while in jail and had a religious experience.
Oh, sure, yeah.
While at his bunk, another inmate approached him and told him that God had sent him to meet West. They prayed together, and 3 others came to join them in prayer.
Okay.
The 3 others were a couple of gang members and a white supremacist. This event had an impact on West, who had always believed in a higher power, but did not claim that this higher power was the God of Abraham, which, Christians, Muslims, and Jews believe in.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have faith in any certain religion, but was convinced by personal experiences that there was something he chose to refer to as God. And what are your thoughts on a higher power, like God, something like that?
Oh, that's a whole episode all on its own.
Yeah, it's a complicated question.
Overall, I don't really think it's a thing.
I don't either. Like even like I would, if somebody asked, I would say it was an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we're all agnostic to a degree because there's no way for us to know a negative. We can't know God doesn't exist in some way.
There's really only one way to find out, and there's no coming back from that. So.
Right? Yeah. And one thing for me is, how do you explain consciousness? How are we aware? That. Like, I get I've read a lot on physics, I know a lot of mathematics on physics, quantum physics, all that stuff. Obviously, I don't grasp all of it.
Right.
But I have read a lot of it, and I've studied a lot of it, and I went to school for, not for that specifically, but I took those classes because I wanted to. Mm-hmm. And I've learned a lot, but the one thing that nobody has been able to adequately explain is consciousness. Mm-hmm. Awareness. Like, we cannot fully explain how it's real. So that there is my little shadow of, unknown.
Oh, yeah.
That makes me say, I can't say there's no God, right. Yeah,
exactly.
Which I could, even if I could explain that, I still couldn't say there's no God. Like, he could have set it all in motion and had a logical explanation for everything.
Right.
But that's one thing that science has not been able to explain yet. And it seems like such a fascinating concept to me that it's difficult for me to sit here and try to convince other people that there's no God. I'm not convinced. I don't believe in God.
Yeah.
But West did refer to a God. Mm-hmm. He believed that there was a God. But what's really interesting is he referred to God not as a he, not as a she, but as an it, which I thought was a really interesting thing.
Yeah, usually people pick one or the other.
Yeah.
Mostly male, it seems like, but...
Yeah, and in contrast to the impression that we would get from this video, West was a surprisingly deep and articulate person. None of which is apparent in the content in the video.
No.
The content that went viral makes him look like a trashy asshole. After leaving jail, West met a taxi driver who also claimed that God had sent him to meet West. And West kept in touch with this taxi driver for at least 5 years after they met.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He would eventually meet his fiancée, Melanie Spitze, the woman in the video. But in the meantime, he had some medical issues. He began to have trouble with his hip. And around August 5th, 2023, he noticed a popping in his hip and was concerned that he might need surgery. And he turned out to be right. His leg had come out of the socket.
Ooh.
And when he was put under to have the femur reattached to the ball joint of his hip, it came out again.
Dude.
Turned out the upper part of his femur was very much broken, and further surgery was needed. So, West, as a person on Social Security, money was already tight, even without additional medical bills.
Yeah, medical bills are not good.
But it's even worse than that. He expressed concern about having to take care of what he called, quote, 3 adolescents. But he used this term as a pejorative. The 3 adolescents were his 48-year-old son, his 60-year-old fiancée, who was unemployed and looking for basically any type of work she could get, even freelance stuff, and the 24-year-old Kyle Spitze, who shot the video. Kyle Spitze was a person who West didn't even like to call his stepson, and being as how he was engaged to Kyle's mother, that kind of says a lot that he would cringe at the idea of calling Kyle a stepson. West claimed he was taking care of all 3 of them on his Social Security alone. So, stress levels were certainly high.
Yeah, that can't be easy. That's not a lot of money.
Yeah. But it gets worse. Let's talk about the person who recorded the video.
Okay.
Who is Kyle Spitze? Kyle is a 24-year-old perpetually online person who holds, I guess, some influence on Discord. It's hard to pin down a lot of validated information, but there are claims about him. Now, his other social media accounts have very few followers, and they're pretty inactive. But he seems to be extremely active, or at least supposedly, on Discord. He's been called a femboy, or a Discord femboy, so a feminine male, and he has posted pictures of himself in a dress and explained that he just likes to dress that way.
Okay.
Normally, I wouldn't bother mentioning a person's feminine side or gender-related trends, but he was referred to multiple times online as a Discord femboy. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a femboy, but I have seen in the past that so-called Discord influencers, or those who try to raise through the ranks of certain Discord groups, can often turn out to be very problematic. And in fact, Kyle has been accused of exactly that. An ex-girlfriend of his, named Skylar, said that Kyle, quote, posts revenge porn of me, other women, and minors to make money off of us. He also uses intimate images and videos of us to sell and commit fraud to line his pockets for drugs. He actively preys on minors to this day.
Wow. Okay.
And she posted that after this video came out. He was also accused of being part of groups that take part in unbelievably heinous activities, specifically a group called 764.
Okay.
The FBI put out a public service announcement regarding groups like 764, which I will read for you now.
Okay.
Violent online groups extort minors to self-harm and produce child sexual abuse material. The FBI is warning the public of violent crime groups deliberately targeting minor victims on publicly available messaging platforms to extort them into recording or live streaming acts of self-harm and producing child sexual abuse material. These groups use threats, blackmail, and manipulation to control victims into recording or live streaming self-harm, sexually explicit acts, and or suicide. The footage is then circulated among members to extort victims further and extort control over them. Doesn't sound great. Doesn't sound great at all. But it gets worse than that.
Oh, good.
Yeah. The violent online groups use many names, including 676, 764, which is the one Kyle is accused of being a part of. But these could be the same members, but they're changing their name to not be tracked as easily.
Right.
They also go by Court, Cascar, Harm Nation, Leak Society, and H311. And I actually found more names that they go by, and we'll go over that in a little bit and where I found that information. These groups target minors between the ages of 8 and 17, especially LGBTQ plus youth, racial minorities, and those who struggle with a variety of mental issues such as depression and suicidal ideation. These groups, what they have a tendency to do, at least according to the FBI PSA, is that they convince minorities and minors to give them videos, like sexually explicit videos or images of themselves. Then they threaten to show those videos and photos to other people, including their family members. They also threaten to dox them. And if they don't commit self-harm acts. And some of these self-harm acts include like carving the name of their Discord group into their skin.
Oh, God.
Or literally committing suicide, which has happened.
Okay.
People have been on video committing suicide.
Right.
Now, I don't know how much of this was completely successful on the part of these groups, or if these people were going to commit suicide anyway, and just wanted, an audience. It's hard to say for sure, but they are encouraging this behavior.
Right.
They're doing the opposite of what the suicide hotline does. And it's monstrous. But it gets worse than that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, real quick, doxing, that is where you give out someone's personal information, is that right? Like your address and...
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Or they also threaten to SWAT people, to get a SWAT team to show up and break into their homes.
Right.
And a lot of the comments that I've read, in response to people who are concerned about these groups, are from people who say that there's no way they actually have the address information of these people.
Right.
Their threats are empty, and they're like I keep seeing a trend of people calling them just a bunch of quote edgy 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they are doing actual harm. They are getting people to harm themselves, and in some cases kill themselves.
Yeah.
And you're gonna fucking hate this part.
Okay. Oh no.
So first off, if Kyle is a member of these groups, he's clearly a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I want to qualify this next part with the fact that I didn't find a source other than, I found multiple comment sections and posts making this claim that this event happened, but I couldn't find like a news article or any sort of like investigative information that would confirm it to me for certain. But it may just be the fact that it hasn't caught wind, or that nobody has studied this situation. But I want to clarify. I've only read this in posts and in comment sections. But allegedly, the group that Kyle's a part of convinced a young girl to bite the head off of her own pet hamster. It can't get worse. It's child
She
porn.
bit the head off her own pet hamster. Oh my god.
Yes, and made a
That's not where I
video, made
thought
a
that was
video
gonna go.
of it, made a video of it, and shared it.
Oh my god. What the
You've got
fuck?
you've got child porn. You've got convincing people to kill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You've got convincing people to cut themselves. And you've got convincing people, and apparently there are multiple instances of them convincing people to harm their own pets
That is terrible.
and their own younger siblings.
Oh my god.
Some of the child porn things that these groups are convincing people to be a part of aren't just themselves. They're abusing children, and they're convincing other people to abuse children. And the way that you move up and rank in some of these groups is to see what the most heinous act you can get somebody to do is. I think that's part of why one of the groups is called Harm Nation,
Yeah.
because they're literally intentionally causing harm. Obviously, I can't know for sure what Kyle has been a part of, because it's a lot of the accusations are about his Discord. And in order for me to see it, I would have to add the idiot, and I don't want to do that.
No, don't do that. That's not good.
I
That's
don't.
not going to do anything good for you.
No.
No.
I don't want there to be a connection.
No, you don't want the connection. You don't want to see it because you're not going to get it out of your head. It's going to be in there. It's going to live in your head.
Yes.
You do not want to see that. Don't do it.
Yes, absolutely.
Nobody do that. Don't
become part of these groups. Don't follow these groups.
don't encourage them. That's the word I'm looking for. Don't
Yes.
don't do anything like that. That is
Absolutely
not.
not. And
There's something really wrong with these people.
I will say that I have read some posts and comments from people who did try to investigate some of these groups, and
don't.
by adding them and getting into their social media and seeing what happens. And what they frequently say is that it took them no time at all to find child porn.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's one of the top things.
It's insane. And like, why isn't Discord doing more to stop this?
Right.
You know, and this is almost all coming straight from Discord. And it's kind of upsetting because, like, you expect this kind of shit from 4chan, you know?
Sure.
But it's like Discord has become this really bizarre cesspool of just abhorrent behavior. It's completely disgusting. Another thing that I can't say for sure is if Kyle is on drugs, but
I kind of hope so.
he certainly sounds intoxicated in the video.
He definitely didn't sound right. Like he wasn't worried enough about the fact that guy was aiming a gun at him. Like, I don't know, maybe that guy does it every day. You didn't do the dishes. I'm going to fucking shoot you. You know, maybe
Yeah.
that's a common thing in this household. But he didn't sound like he was all there somehow. Like he sounded
and he was
dull, kind of.
Yeah, very slow and slurring his words a lot. And
like something was up with that guy.
And I am going to have to say, as much like I've read some things about Kyle,
Okay.
some things from himself and from the people who knew him personally, and he does not sound like a bright individual. He sounds like he's somewhat of a dimwit.
He's got to have at least a little brains, though. I mean, he did set up this whole thing. Or did he set it up? Or he's just part of it.
He just started recording.
Okay. Well, no, I mean like the Discord
groups.
stuff.
No, he just joined them.
He's just in there. Okay.
They will accept anybody who's a piece of shit, and basically the way you work your way up in the ranks is by getting people to do awful things. And whatever, you know, how, like, the more awful you're willing to be, the more you get, because they can rank people. You can like work your way up to, you know, the most popular person in the group. And the way that they do that is just by whoever's willing to do the stupidest shit, you know, and
kind of like Jackass, but worse.
it's Jackass, but it harms other people instead of yourself. Because like Jackass is fun, you know, In my opinion,
Yeah.
I know you're not a fan of it, but like I think,
I'm okay with a lot of it, but when they get to like the paper cuts in the middle of the fingers and it's just, I gotta turn it off, man. Some of that shit's just not right.
yeah, those parts I'm not
Anything
like,
that makes me go,
those parts don't make me cringe, but they're also I don't find those parts as funny.
oh,
But like
skip.
when they do like silly stunts where they put themselves in danger.
Oh yeah,
like, that's
the
on them,
shopping cart
you know?
going down a hill. I mean, that's funny.
Oh yeah, no, the shopping cart bits were some of my favorites.
Yeah.
But going back to this video with a certain jackass named Kyle.
Yeah, the not fun one.
Yeah, the not fun one. I think it's pretty apparent that intoxication was likely a factor all around. And Kyle himself claims that West was intoxicated when West shot him, which I find believable.
Well, they all seemed a little weird. Like Mom's reaction was kind of odd, and Kyle's definitely.
They all seem to be to some extent intoxicated.
Yeah,
in my
something was
opinion,
up with that group.
If I had to guess, I'd say that they were on something at least, either very drunk or doing some kind of drugs. And according to Kyle, when West shot him, he said that West was intoxicated and quote off a Xanax. And I'm not sure if that means that West was taking Xanax or wasn't taking it when he should have been. But either way, you should not mix alcohol and benzodiazepines ever. It's not a good combo. Kyle also accuses West of being an angry drunk, which, looking at the video,
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
that's believable. As much as I don't want to give any credit to that piece of shit, Kyle,
Right.
it's believable for sure. So, according to the police report, West pulled the gun on Kyle, quote, after an argument, and the bullet grazed his right ear. And as you can see in the video, there was quite a bit of blood, and Kyle panics and understandably runs outside.
Yeah.
His mother also went outside to call the police. The police arrived. They had been told that West may have fled out the back door, but it turned out he was still in the house. There was 2-hour standoff between West and the police.
Okay.
Before I get to the end of the story, I want to say something. I went into this thinking that West, as presented in the video, was just some trashy alcoholic who took things too far, and I thought much more of him other than that. But learning about the man himself gave me a different perspective. He was a 68-year-old man living on Social Security who used to do odd jobs on the side, but eventually found himself unable to do that, likely because of his hip injury. He was financially taking care of 3 people who seemed to be unable to take care of themselves. He seemed to care a lot about people and their well-being. He was a registered organ donor and insisted that people not be sad when he dies. He had a dog named Roxy and was struggling with her vet bills. He was a huge animal lover, and he hated Donald Trump. And he had wished that he could see Donald Trump put in handcuffs and be put away, which
All right.
I'm on his side with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that.
None of this was the impression I got from the video.
No.
And I had learned about watching this video, my judgments about him were before I learned about his humanity, about who he was as a person. So, how is someone driven to shoot a 24-year-old who isn't a physical threat? The police report reads that West and Kyle had an argument, and it is clear that West saw Kyle as a freeloader.
Oh, yeah.
But there's actually more to West's resentment toward Kyle. Remember how I mentioned his hip situation? Well, according to West, the reason for the injury was because Kyle Spitze totaled his car and caused his hip injury, which West said cost him thousands of dollars in medical bills.
Okay. So basically, West has just had too many bad days. He's going to hit the end of his rope.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I can relate to that.
I mean,
I'd want to shoot somebody too.
you would, I mean, there's like, I don't condone murdering people, obviously.
God, no. But he didn't murder him. He shot him in the ear. I can
But
get behind that.
He tried to fucking
You know
murder
what?
him.
Screw you, you little. Are you sure? Again, he could have been a marksman. He might have been aiming for his ear.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Well, yeah, that's true.
He's like, you
yeah.
little fuck,
He
come
might
here,
have just
he's
been
gonna
really
hurt.
talented at that.
Yeah.
But, that's something that nobody else seemed to be aware of, is that West directly connected his hip injury with the wreck that Kyle Spitze caused on his own car and totaled it. And he already was taking financial care of Kyle and his mother and his own son. And he, like, having that in addition on top of that, I can imagine how if you are not in the right mental state, things might be just, they might have crossed a line, you know? I mean, his reaction, obviously, shooting at a kid is not appropriate.
No, that's a bit
Not
of an
at all.
overreaction.
Not at all.
But I can kind of get it.
But I get his anger and his resentment.
You just happened to have a gun handy, and that was bad.
Now, and that's something that I did not see in any of the police reports or comment sections.
Okay.
Like I said, when the police arrived at the residence, there was a 2-hour standoff. SWAT teams attempted different tactics to defuse the situation. Eventually, authorities sent a K-9 unit into the house. But by that time, West had already taken his own life by shooting himself in the head.
Oh, wow.
It's difficult to feel for somebody who attempted to kill a 24-year-old son of his fiancée. But like I said, I learned about how human West was, and there was something that kind of blew me away. Of course, the public comments on the video on X and Reddit involved a lot of judgment about him and the entire family. Almost 100% negative across the board. But I found some responses from the people who knew him personally, and these are in response to a police post about West attempting to kill Kyle Spitze and then taking his own life. And keep in mind, as I read these, this is about a man who tried to kill a kid and then took his own life to not go to jail. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
He tried to kill a kid and took his own life to not go to jail. And these are the comments. And I'm going to read them in order. I'm not leaving comments out.
Okay.
Heartbreaking. A good man. Breaks my heart. He was a good friend of mine. Such a good-hearted man. Scott was the best friend in high school and after. Rest in peace. And then it's got a prayer sign and a sad face. Oh, Scott, rest in peace. Scott, rest in peace. Scott West was a good person. He helped a lot of people. It's just not right to end a life like that. He is missed by lots of long friends. So sorry, Scott. You are loved. You will be missed. Rest in peace. Oh my fucking God, this is so tragic. Rest in peace, Scott. You were a good man. You will be sorely missed. And then the last one says, rest in peace, Scott. Jeffrey Scott West attempted to kill his fiance's son right before taking his life. And still, by all accounts, outside of this event, he was considered to be a really good person by a lot of people. And as much as I could read about him, he didn't seem like a bad guy. Like, he might have been a good guy who just had a really tragic moment mentally and emotionally.
Just had too many bad days.
Yeah, I just, like, after learning about him, like, seeing the video you want to hate the guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned so much about his life.
Yeah.
Stuff that if his family ever listens to this podcast, they're going to be shocked I know some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't want to reveal all my sources, but, just through people who knew him personally, and also through people who knew Kyle personally, nobody who knew Kyle had anything good to say about him.
Right.
But everybody who knew West had nothing but good things to say about him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I started this off reading, like, thinking that I'm just going to learn a lot of awful things about the guy firing the gun.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I learned nothing but good stuff about him. And I learned nothing but bad stuff about the person he shot. And again, I don't condone murder at all.
No.
But if Kyle is in these groups actively encouraging people to harm animals, to harm themselves, to kill themselves, and using child porn as blackmail, I can't say the world wouldn't be better off without him. You know?
Yeah.
But it just, reading this story just, I don't know, it just made me sad.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. I think that was, a 30-second video? And that 30 seconds showed the worst 30 seconds of West's life.
Yeah, it
and
really could have.
Not a bad 30 seconds of Kyle's life. And it was like the complete opposite in reality. You got Kyle's a piece of shit. And West was a decent guy, just trying to help people, just trying to live his life, do the best he could. And, you get videos like this, and it sucks, because when I saw that video, I thought, wow, that guy with a gun, he's a total asshole.
Yeah.
But that's not
what
how
I thought too.
That's not how it was.
No, not at all. And while in those 30 seconds, his entire behavior was completely inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, after learning about him, like, and learning about years of his life, and consulting sources, like, I got to know him as a person, and it's just sad.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. I know it's weird that I'm kind of crying about this, but
Well, it's very emotional.
But
I mean,
I spent a long time learning about this guy, and fuck, he didn't deserve to end like that.
No.
That's not the way the end of his life should have gone.
No, he made it 68 years, and this one fucking stupid kid just pushed him too far.
Yeah. Yeah, and he did so much for so many people, and just, I don't know, it's such a fucked up situation,
Mm-hmm.
You got the people defending this fucking monster of a kid who is literally part of groups encouraging people to harm their own pets.
Yeah.
And this guy fucking died, like, who was probably, if he were sober, was a force for good in the world,
Yeah, and he didn't just die, he took his own life.
Yeah.
Just because he didn't want to go to prison again. Like, he'd already been there.
Yeah.
He knew what it was like.
Yeah.
And this fucking kid.
It's miserable. And I hate the way it ended.
Yeah.
I hate it. Anyway, sorry to everybody who listened. I know I usually thank everybody for listening, but I want to apologize because this one was miserable.
Well, hope you listen to the next one.
And like some of the, like, getting to know the humanity of Jeffrey Scott West, that as silly as this sounds, I was in my car and I started crying.
I get it. It's miserable.
Yeah. And I didn't even share everything. Like,
No.
because I don't know. I almost recorded this by myself to not put anybody else through it.
Except our listeners. Suffer.
I'm just saying, like I can warn them, but
yeah, that's true.
you know, and I warned you
You did.
multiple times, but I think the truth matters. You know, I want to express the information that I learned. So,
Not one reference to Lego to Eggo waffles though. I'm you know, that was.
oh yeah, that's right.
That's why the meme was
That's-
wrong, right?
that's-
That was why you were talking
You
about
know
it.
what? I actually have a line at the end of the script that I forgot to read.
Oh, good.
I don't give a fucking shit about what the Eggo thing is about at this point.
I do.
After
I
learning,
want to know.
after learning what I fucking learned, the Eggos can fuck themselves. Fuck the Eggos. I don't care. Like, I learned, like, after reading into this shit, I don't give a fuck what they think is funny about the Eggo waffles. This is a bad fucking story.
Yeah, it really is.
All right. Listeners, I promise at the very beginning of the next episode, I will explain why the Eggo waffle commercial logo and slogan was used in that meme. But for now, fuck it. I'm not touching jokes on this one.
Okay.
Thank you all so much for listening. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.